Hello and welcome. Today, we are diving into something that, believe it or not, is a huge part of our everyday lives. We're talking about commercial acts. So, what is it that takes a simple transaction and makes it commercial in the eyes of the law? Let's get into it.
Seriously, think about it for a second. Have you ever snagged a great deal on something, maybe some cool sneakers or a piece of furniture, and your first thought was, hey, I bet I could flip this for a profit? Well, if you have, you might have just performed a commercial act without even knowing it, and we're going to figure out exactly what that means.
So where is all this information coming from? This entire explainer is grounded in a lecture by Dr. Nasser Al-Adba. He really lays out the framework for commercial acts according to the Qatari Commercial Code. We're just breaking down his key ideas to make it all super clear.
All right, so what's the official definition? Well, according to the law, a commercial act is basically anything you do with the intention of speculation. Now, pay close attention to that last part, even if that person is not a trader. This is so important. You don't have to be a business owner or a big shot merchant to do this.
And what in the world is speculation? It sounds complicated, but it's not. It's just a legal way of saying seeking profit. It all boils down to your intent. Were you trying to make money from the deal? This idea of intent, it's the golden thread that runs through this whole topic. Remember that.
Now, the law doesn't just throw all these acts into one big bucket. Nope. It actually sorts them into a few different categories because, different situations need different rules. Let's have a quick look at how they're grouped. So you've got these four main buckets: acts that are commercial by their very nature, acts that become commercial because they're connected to a business, that's subordination, mixed acts which are commercial for one person but not the other, and acts that are commercial by analogy. That's a lot, I know. So for today, we're going to zoom in on the most common one: acts that are commercial by nature. Okay, so even within that by nature category, the law slices it one more time. It breaks them down into two main types, and it really just depends on whether it's a one-time thing or part of a bigger, ongoing operation.
So on one hand, you have isolated commercial acts. These are commercial even if you only do them once. Remember our example of Miss Fatima buying clothes to resell? That's a perfect fit. On the other hand, you have commercial acts by profession. This is the big stuff, things that need a continuous, organized business like a bank or an insurance company. We're going to start by digging into those isolated acts, because that's where most of us might interact with this law.
So how can you know for sure if that one thing you did, that one purchase and resale, actually counts as a commercial act? Well, the law is super helpful here. It gives us a really clear four-part test. If your action ticks all four of these boxes, then bingo, it's a commercial act. Here we go. First, there has to be a purchase or a lease. Second, right from the get-go, you had to have the intention to sell or lease it again. Third, the thing you bought has to be movable property. We're talking goods, cars, stocks, not land. And fourth, the whole point of the exercise has to be to make a profit. Let's unpack these a bit more.
Okay, to really get that four-part test, we need to look at the fine print, where the law draws the line. Honestly, understanding the exceptions is just as important as knowing the rules themselves.
Let's start with number one, the purchase. A purchase means you paid for something to get it. This is huge because it means if you get something as a gift or you inherit it and then you sell it, it's not a commercial act. Why? Because you didn't purchase it to begin with. Same goes for an author selling their own book. That's not a commercial act. But if someone buys the rights to that book to resell them, that is. See the difference?
All right, pop quiz. Let's say Salem inherits a car from his dad. He then sells it and makes a nice profit. Based on what we just covered, is this a commercial act? What do you think?
And the answer is no, absolutely not, because the very first element of our four-part test, a purchase, is missing. It doesn't matter how much money he made. Since he inherited the car, the act just isn't commercial.
And the law goes even further. Article 11 specifically calls out a few activities that are exempt: an artist selling their own painting, an author selling their book, professionals like doctors or lawyers offering their services, and a farmer selling crops they grew themselves. All of these are generally not considered commercial acts.
But check this out, because this is where context becomes everything. A farmer selling their crops from the farm, not commercial. But if that same farmer sets up a permanent shop or a factory to process and sell those crops, suddenly the activity becomes commercial. It's the organization, the structure, that completely changes its legal nature. Pretty interesting, right?
This leads us right back to what I said is the most important element of them all: intent.
The law is laser-focused on what was going through your mind at the very moment you made the purchase. It is, without a doubt, the decisive factor.
Okay, another scenario. Sawed buys some equipment for his own farm, so for his personal use. A little while later, he changes his mind, sells it, and makes a profit. Was the original purchase a commercial act?
The answer is a clear no, because when he first bought the equipment, his intention was to use it himself, not to resell it. The fact that he decided to sell it later doesn't go back in time and change the nature of that original purchase.
Now, let's flip that on its head. This time, Salem buys equipment with the crystal clear intention of reselling it for a profit. That's his whole plan. But before he gets around to selling it, he changes his mind and decides to keep it. Was the act of buying that equipment a commercial act?
And here's where it gets fascinating. The answer is yes, it absolutely was a commercial act. The law doesn't care what happened later. It only cares about the intent you had at the moment of the transaction. The purchase itself was commercial from the second it happened, even if he never sold it.
So that four-part test for isolated acts is super important. But it's really just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The law also points to several other major activities that are just considered commercial by their very nature. Just to give you a sense of the scale here, the law also says that setting up a company is a commercial act. So is large-scale contracting work, like advertising or property management. Pretty much everything related to shipping and aviation is in there, and even buying real estate when your clear plan is to flip it. Each of these is a whole world of rules on its own.
And that brings us to our final thought. Now that you know the rules, now that you can spot the key ingredients, a purchase, the intent to resell a movable thing, and the goal of making a profit, how does that change how you see the world of commerce around you? From your local market to online stores, you'll start seeing these principles absolutely everywhere.